like to start on time because we know your time is very valuable. Welcome to our Beaches Watch meeting. As you can see up here, please consider joining. You can join right over there. I think it's you get wonderful bang for your buck. It's $15 and for an individual and $20 for a family. So do consider that. Thank you. We have the Beaches Watch. You can always see the video later on. It will be on the YouTube right up there. You'll see that. We have here two elected officials, Sandy Golding, who's Jack's Beach, and Carrie Chin, who's Neptune Beach. So thank you both for coming. Well, Sandy has to come and Carrie always comes. So very good. We do have a bill that a lot of the people in the community wanted us to bring up, that the bad vacation rental bill. Is that actually the name of it?
No.
SB, it's Senate Bill 280. And Governor DeSantis has, to our recognition, has not even seen it yet. But when he sees it, we'd like him to think about not supporting it. So you might want to phone him, or there's his email, and you can let him know your opinion on that. So thank you for that. The 2050 Jacksonville Beach Comprehensive Plan public hearing will be this coming Monday, May the 6th, in Jack's Beach City Council. So you can go there. It's at 6 p.m. So, also, some of you who are always looking for ways to possibly serve your community, you can run for public office. These are the seats that will be on your ballot in November. You can go to Jerry Holland, who is the supervisor of election, to find out for some of the races. I think the deadline is coming up, so if you're interested, do pursue that. Then save the date for our next meeting, June the 5th. We will have Rory Diamond, who is our city councilman for the beaches areas. So today, my other job now is such fun because I've known these two for a long time. We are fortunate to have a very qualified team here tonight to share information about the shore renourishment program presently being conducted on our shore. Trust me when I say this is not their first rodeo. Dr. Kevin Bodge is president of Olsen Associates, where for the past 38 years he has designed and managed beach restoration projects throughout the Southeast and Hawaii. He also has designed beaches, marinas, and attractions at ocean resort destinations around the world. For the past 20 years, he has been the coastal engineering consultant for the city of Jacksonville. Kevin is an ocean engineering graduate from Virginia Tech, University of Delaware, and the University of Florida. He is an adjunct professor at Jacksonville University and the University of Florida. Dr. Bodge is recognized for pioneering and his continuing work with inlet sand management and the use of coastal structures for beach stabilization. He developed and patented various oceanographic instruments and was an early pioneer in the practical application of numerical models for coastal engineering analysis. Kevin and his wife Nancy are longtime residents of Atlantic Beach. Along with Kevin, we welcome Jason Harrah, a West Virginia engineering graduate who is a senior project manager in the Water Resources Division of the Army Corps of Engineers. Jason has 21 years of leading complex studies, designs, environmental permitting, and construction projects. Jason is responsible for the day-to-day coordination and execution of projects that include deep draft navigation and coastal storm and flood risk management. He has executed over 60 critical beach restoration and navigation projects here in Florida, valued over $3 billion. Jason has earned many awards, some of which were given for his dedication to helping those in need by serving as a temporary housing subject matter expert following floods, tornadoes, and hurricane disasters. We are fortunate to have Kevin and Jason on our team here at the beach.
Great. Well, I can't top Kevin's credentials, but I'll do my best. I did stay at Holiday Inn, so bear with me. My name is Jason Harrah. I'm a senior project manager in Jacksonville. I'm responsible for projects from Kings Bay, Georgia, all the way down through Flagler County. That includes all our navigation channels, that includes our beach projects, and some smaller projects in the Jacksonville District Corps of Engineers as well. Honored to be here. Thank you very much for the opportunity. We have a very exciting time for the coastal program in the state of Florida. We are up to about 26 coastal projects throughout the state of Florida. We have Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands as well. You see a lot of press on beaches, right? We see a lot of, why are you dumping so much money in the ocean? It's just going to wash away. My wife tells me not to read the comments on Facebook, but I do. And it makes me mad, but I still read. But I think we all know the importance of our beaches in Florida, right? They're the economic engine of the state of Florida. People come to our beaches. One of the representatives said it very well in our recent groundbreaking ceremony with Mayor Deegan and several other elected officials. That this is the largest park in Duval County. This is where everybody flocks, is the Duval County beaches. And people come, they enjoy the beach, they spend money at restaurants, at hotels, at Airbnbs. It is the economic engine for the state of Florida. And we all know when COVID hit, the one piece of solidarity and comfort, everybody wanted to know, when are the beaches opening back up, right? It was the important thing everybody wanted. So we understand the importance, and I thank you for showing up tonight. So, Duval County Shore Protection Project. I'm going to have to turn a little bit because I don't have a clicker. This project was initially constructed 1978 to 1980. It's one of our oldest projects in the state of Florida. It was originally authorized back in the 1960s with the Rivers and Harbors Act, and we took material from the Federal Navigation Channel and beneficially reused it from Jacksonville Harbor to support Naval Station Mayport Beach and some adjacent beaches in Hannah Park, etc. So it's one of our oldest projects we have. The project extends about 10 miles all the way from the South Jetty at Jacksonville Harbor, including Naval Station Mayport, all the way down to the St. Johns County line. And the way the authorization works for this is the taxpayers, City of Jacksonville, etc., that cost share in this project, they don't pay for the Naval Station Mayport portion. That's strictly paid by the Navy, whatever that cost is. They just cost share in Hannah Park all the way down to the St. Johns County line. So the project limits, as you can see here, is about 9 miles. That is the work that we're doing now. The bar area, as shown in yellow, is located about 7 nautical miles offshore. Typically, we dredge material from federal waters. We have to go through the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. They're responsible to permit any offshore mining of sand that is to be used for federal beaches. This is not the only project we have going on. As I mentioned, we are recovering from Hurricane Ian, Nicole, and many nor'easters that pretty much acted as small hurricanes. We have a project Olsen Associates is involved in, North Ponte Vedra, immediately to the south. For the first time in my career, we have dredges, or we will have dredges, putting sand on beaches at Naval Station Mayport, Duval County beaches, North Ponte Vedra, we just finished Milano, and we have dredging at St. Augustine, and in July we have dredging at Flagler Beach. So there's going to be ships off the coast all the way to Flagler Beach, restoring beaches in Northeast Florida. Mayport, as I mentioned too, that will start on October the 1st. We're taking material, clean sandy material. That is the big thing in the Corps, is we call it regional sediment management. When we have good clean sand that's entering the Jacksonville harbor that's been tested, let's recycle that sand and use it on adjacent beaches instead of taking it out to the ocean or disposing of it. So this is the dredge actually operating off of Duval County shoreline. It's 2024. They just ripped the stickers off of it and ripped the plastic off the car seats. It's brand spanking new. It did a small project in Sabine Pass, Texas, but this is its first time offloading sand on a beach. So it is brand spanking new, upwards of $100 million dredge. And that is Great Lakes Dredge and Dock is the company that does this. So how does it work? What I told my son when he was about 10, 11 years old, it's like a gigantic Dyson vacuum cleaner. It goes to the bar area offshore. It sucks the sand up into the belly of the ship, and the ship will come to shore. And it will connect, as you can see there, the hopper dredge is sitting to the left. It connects to a pipeline and pumps the sand on the beach. And my son said, "Dad, you spent that long in college for engineering to put sand on top of sand." I don't understand, but to us it's very technical. You may see the crab. It's that weird looking something out of Star Wars. What is that thing called? I can't remember.
Those research at 50 Slot?
No, the thing on Star Wars. I don't care about that. We got the Comic-Con out here. But anyways, it looks like the thing that walks, whatever it is. And so that is measuring the template of the beach, making sure that whatever elevations we need on the beach, on the dune, etc., they're meeting those templates before they get paid. So this survey vessel walks down, shoots kind of a laser beam down, measuring the elevations, and then we review that and we pay the contractor once they've met the elevations. This is what the sand looks like coming out. A lot of people say, "What in the world is that?" It's like mud, it's dirt. It bleaches out and it's very wet sand. We know that. If you're offshore, if you do any diving, you know the sand's darker. As they spread that sand out and the sun starts hitting it, it turns to match what's existing in the Duval County beaches. This is our progress map. The contractors are required to put these together. We want them to be able to show where they're going to be at in blocks up and down the beach. And this map is updated every single week and will turn green for areas that have been completed. They are anticipating right now, we've already pumped about 2 loads of material from that offshore bar area. So from 28 April to mid-May, they're going to be working south from 16th Avenue South staging area, going south, getting that pump first. They will then turn the pipe through June, all the way up toward Neptune Beach. They will then proceed July, all the way up to near Atlantic Beach, and then all the way up to Hannah Park, finishing in Hannah Park by mid-August 2024, weather pending. So they'll have everything complete. This particular map is available. You can scan the QR code if you'd like. We have our course site at the top, and there's a phone number if you have any questions or issues come up from our public affairs office. And Kevin Bodge and his team have been very gracious and put together a really, really nice map as well on the bottom QR code that you can follow as well. So I don't know how Windows friendly it is on a phone, but certainly with a computer application, both of these work very well. So I'll give everybody a second to scan that. Jackie, I'm sure we'll make this available in a PDF or something to everybody, maybe, the presentation. Everybody good? You got that? So this map will be updated every single week, and we will publish it on our Corps website. If you follow social media, the Corps has Instagram, X, Facebook, Jacksonville District, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This map gets published every single week, and we share it with all the beach communities so they can share it on their social media as well. So why do we construct in the summer? That is the other comment that I had to see multiple times on the news stations. We don't plan the timing, right? The storms kind of hit in the fall and winter, as we know. We are right now doing a project specifically for Hurricanes Ian and Nicole, okay? So once those storms hit, the non-federal sponsor, every Corps project has a non-federal sponsor, Duval County. They've hired Olsen Associates to kind of act as that non-federal sponsor. When the storm passes, you see a bunch of guys out in red shirts, they're doing surveys of the beach, they're checking all the volumes of the dune and the berm, and we have to justify, yes, this storm was of such a magnitude, it warrants the federal government restoring it at 100% federal cost under the Stafford Act, okay? So that is every beach in Florida after that passed. Guys are out, they're doing the surveys, they're looking at it. Dr. Bodge says, yep, this is really bad. We put a report together, we sent it to Washington, and they start divvying out money to Myrtle Beach and New Jersey and Florida and everywhere else that got hit by similar storms. So that takes a while to get all that incorporated. In June to July of 2023, for the previous renourishments of this project since the 70s, whenever the dune was created, the dunes were non-federal. And the reason is the core authorized project just included a berm all the way back to the old seawall. Well, naturally, over time, the dune became part of the project and set on top of it. So it was kind of a weird deal where every time we would do a renourishment, I would pay for the berm or the town space, and Dr. Bodge and the city would have to pay to restore the dune, right? So finally, the federal government, our infinite wisdom, we said, hey, we will adopt that dune for you and start restoring it as part of our federal project. So we are doing the dune and the berm, and we had to go through paperwork to do that through July 2023. October, we sent that report to Washington. They said, great, we're ready to do this. Here is $45 million. Go out and restore the project. And in January, we had bid and award of the construction contract. One of the other problems that we face on these projects is, believe it or not, the hopper dredge fleet. There's about 4 or 5 companies that do this around the United States. Okay, the amount of hopper dredges are very limited. And so we used to have in our contracts that once we awarded and provided a notice to proceed, basically they met all the requirements, provided all their documents, they had to show up and start dredging within 60 days of notice to proceed, right? Industry said, wait a minute, there's only about 10 or 11 of these hopper dredges in the entire United States. I can't have Philadelphia, New Jersey, Jacksonville, Long Beach, California all saying show up on day 60. That doesn't work. So you guys have to give us what end date you need it done by, and if we don't finish it by that date, then we get assessed $10,000 to $15,000 a day liquidated damages. So we're kind of at the mercy of them showing up when they show up, and then they have to complete by a certain day. And that's just due to the limited fleet and the amount of coastal erosion that's occurred up and down the eastern seaboard. We have many other projects, as I mentioned, Nassau through Flagler County. We are allowed to construct in the summertime, which is very crucial. Unlike our brothers to the south, they have much more restrictions on sea turtle nests and shorebirds. Fortunately, up here, we have a very, very great turtle permit holder with Beach's Sea Turtle Patrol. They are phenomenal. They've been with us a long time. Beach's Sea Turtle Patrol is responsible for doing nest monitoring, and then every single day they do relocations of those nests to 2 areas outside of the project footprint as approved by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. They're the ones responsible for that. So we move those nests that are in the active area to a designated area so they can hatch. And then any nest that occurs in the new beach, they're left alone, they're marked and avoided. The other reason is, yes, we could wait till the fall, but why not get out now? Let's get the beach built, let's get the dunes in, let's get the vegetation rooted in. Because we know, the Corps of Engineers, as I mentioned before, we know the beaches are economically thriving to the local economy. We build beaches for storm damage reduction and hurricane protection. And we've seen what these beaches do for the local area. We saw a small breach in Hurricane Matthew, everybody saw that picture. But overall, we build the beaches, they are the sacrificial lamb. They sacrifice themselves, they eat the storm surge and the waves, they wash out the sea so that upland infrastructure can stay high and dry. We can put sand on beaches a lot easier than we can have a foot of salt water in everybody's first floor of their house. Okay, that's what the beaches are built for, is for storm damage reduction. I mentioned this before, marine turtle nesting. Beach's Sea Turtle Patrol is doing all of the Duval County Beach except for Hannah Park. They have their own slated team that does their work. This is done every single morning. They mark, relocate nests, anything that's in the completed beach is left alone. Shorebirds are monitored as well, least terns, killdeer, there's several other types of birds that nest in these areas. So we have certified Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission shorebird monitors and sea turtle monitors that do all of this work during construction and then they do it for 3 years after construction as well with the monitoring efforts. All right. We also have full-time endangered species observers. Believe it or not, if you're looking for probably the best job ever, a guy gets to sit in a lounge chair with a pair of binoculars, and he is looking for white whales, any kind of other endangered species offshore. Believe it or not, just if you want to know how important these species are, St. Augustine Beach is under active renourishment, and we just had a lease term, which is that big, shut down a $32 million project potentially till August. So if you don't think we take it seriously, we do. That project is shutting down, waiting for the natural hatching of the lease terms, and then we'll come back in August and redo it. So that little 2-inch bird shut down $32 million project. Work is 24/7. These big dredges, as I mentioned, there's a very limited amount. They want to get in, get out, and move to the next job. They're like a cruise industry. They get paid to run and complete the job. They typically run back and forth to that Harrah area about 7 miles offshore, fill up full of sand, come and connect about every five hours, and the project will advance about 500 to 600 feet a day. So the entire beach isn't shut off. We shut off sections of about 1,500 feet with orange safety fence. When that section is completed, we pull the fence up, move to the next section. That's why you see the map that has blocks up and down. So you can see, based on your favorite part of the beach or where you live, when we project to be in those certain areas. So please follow that map every single week, either on social media or the QR codes. No, backup beepers cannot be turned off. I'm sorry, I don't have the fortunate ability to live. I live on the other side of the lake, so I don't have to worry about it. But you that live on the beach, I don't feel sorry for you, because you'll get over it. Because you're getting a big, nice beach, you'll be over it. So they can't do it for safety reasons. The beepers have to be on. Obviously, there's people all over the beach. Dune planting, earth balance is typically the group that does it, Kevin, here. They'll plant certain species, sea oats, railroad vine, painted grass. I think there's 3 or 4 different DEP-approved grasses that can be planted in the dunes. So as soon as that dune is planted, most likely, or as soon as the dune is constructed, they'll come in immediately behind. You'll see them up there putting the plants in, and that really is what solidifies that dune and creates that level of protection. I will now turn it to Dr. Bodge.
Okay, thanks, Jason. This project is pretty unique in that this particular renourishment is being conducted after to repair damages from Hurricanes Ian and Nicole in 2022, and as such, the construction cost and the attendant cost for the coordinated design and management project are 100% federal. Construction contract is $32 million. Corps will spend an additional at least $2 million for design and surveys and whatnot. 100% of that is paid by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And that's actually not wholly unusual. The prior renourishment, which was completed in February of 2019, was likewise paid 100% by the Corps of Engineers, except for the dune, which the city of Jacksonville paid for. Hurricane Matthew, kind of a mix, about 80% federal cost share, the rest of it paid by the city of Jacksonville. For that project, there was 2 prior projects in 2019 and 2017 from Hurricanes Matthew, Ian, Jacksonville put together overnight like about $7 million to restore the dunes. That's when the dunes were still a local city of Jacksonville responsibility. Through subsequent reimbursements, we got over 95% of that money back. So it was a brand expenditure by the city, but again, through grants and reimbursements, we're able to recoup that. In addition to that $34 million, the city of Jacksonville still has to put up additional money to pay for attendant surveys, quality control, contribute to the design and whatnot. For this project, that would be about $1.2 million more or less, and we'll get probably $800,000 of that reimbursed back to us from grants from the state of Florida. So out-of-pocket costs for the city of Jacksonville, Duval County, about $400,000 for this $34+ million project. Now the normal cost share for a non-critical storm renourishment is about 61.5% federally paid. And then the balance of the non-federal costs are split between the state of Florida and the city of Jacksonville. The state of Florida picks up about 18% of the overall costs, and the city of Jacksonville about 20%. That split is dependent in large part, as you probably know, on the accessibility of the beach to public access. So public beach access and parking and facilities along the entire beach is very, very important for determining that cost share with the state of Florida. So, as Jason mentioned, we all know here at the beaches, particularly just how important dunes are. That's kind of a new thing. Back in the 60s and 70s, when this whole idea of beach restoration was like, whoa, totally, bizarre, and they were just, instead of building groins and everything, really focused on just the beach. It wasn't until recently, particularly after Hurricane Sandy, that the federal government in particular recognized how critical the dunes are as being that last line of defense to really absorb the flooding and the wave impacts that come over the beach. The beach goes first, boom, then it hits the dune. So this is the condition around Central Atlantic Beach around 12th Street in January 2022. This is 3 years after the prior renourishment, which was completed in 2019. Same spot during Hurricane Nicole. Okay, so with Hurricane Nicole, after Ian, we saw a net reduction or net loss of on the order of 30 to 40 feet retreat of our dunes everywhere. Now, in the couple of years, 3 years since that, 2 years since that, natural accretion, as we predicted, and I mentioned here a couple of years ago, has recovered about maybe 25–30% of that sand, but the remainder of that sand that was eroded away will be replaced by the beach nourishment project, which is ongoing now, and then subsequently replanted. We have to say is placed. About 500,000 dune plants will be installed in order to recover the dune system back to its original pre-Ian condition. So what's new in this renourishment? This is about the 10th time we've done the project here since the late 1970s. As Jason mentioned, in the summer of last year, the federal government incorporated the dunes into the project. That's really huge to us because, A, in this case, they cost share all of it. Instead of the city of Jacksonville having to pay for the dune repair on top of the beach repair, Corps of Engineers turnkeys it. In this case, it's 100% federal. In this 2024 renourishment, also we've increased the burn elevation by about half of a foot to adapt to increasing sea level. And that's in addition to the half-a-foot raise that we did in the 2018-2019 nourishment. So what we're building out there right now, berm-wise, is about a foot higher than was built in sort of the 2016 projects, again, keeping up the sea level rise. Well, what's not new is that any sand fencing which has been installed along that dune area or any other obstructions have to be removed before the renourishment is placed. And the Corps of Engineers and the City of Neptune Jacksonville Beach will go to those property owners who have erected sand fencing or other structures over the last couple of years and ask them to either remove the sand fencing and keep it, or if they don't want to remove it, then the contractor will remove it and we'll throw it away because we're not allowed to bury any kind of derelict structure or any kind of debris through our beach nourishment program. Now, after the sand fill is placed and the dune is restored, I've always told the beach and cities managers that I do not encourage, I do not recommend additional sand fencing be placed. Now, for those private individuals who got a permit and erected proper sand fencing along their properties in an effort to regain sand after Hurricanes Ian and Nicole, okay, fine, that's all right. However, this project at 100% federal cost will instantly restore all of that sand that was eroded from Hurricane Ian and Nicole, replacing it to the pre-project condition, again, with dune vegetation planting as well. After that's done, when you place additional sand fencing along that area, what it does is just to start to encroach the dune seaward of its natural location. We're replacing the dune in the stable location that nature has ordained it. As the dune continues to accrete by artificial means, by sand fencing and things like that, it's encroaching eastward along the beach. The beach, at the same time, is retreating through natural processes westward, which is continuing to narrow the beach berm. I don't know how many times I've had people say, oh boy, man, Kevin, this beach is really eroded. It's like, no, man, it's not. The beach is where it's always been, but the dune is 30 feet or 40 feet wider than it was a couple of years ago. So the beach that you sit upon and you recreate upon is narrower, not necessarily because of erosion, but because of the dune encroachment upon it. So, looking ahead, looking at the future, what would happen if this project wasn't built? Now, I'm talking about just now in 2024. Okay, let's talk about 2024. We've all seen, that after Hurricanes Ian and Nicole, we've got some recovery, natural recovery of sand blowing up against the bottom of the dune. So we've naturally accreted, like say, maybe 20, less than 30% of the sand that was eroded. And that's good, and that's great, part of the natural process. We got hit by another hurricane this summer. That's all gone, in addition to another 10, 15, 20 foot of dune. And that's why we would get breaches, which to me is why it's so important to build this project now to get the dune back into that really healthy, robust state prior to Ian and Nicole. Longer past that, if you didn't manage the beaches at all, that is, if you didn't continue our natural beach restoration shore protection project, then ultimately, over the course of 5, 10, 20 years, you would retreat back to the pre-project condition, i.e. that which many of you know existed here in the 1970s. This is on the screen area around 8th Street or so in Neptune Beach in 2010. Okay, so that's like, what, 10, 20, 30 years after the initial construction of the project. And as you know, if you've been up around that area, the present condition looks pretty much the same, except the dunes are higher and perhaps a little bit wider. This same area prior to the project looked like this in the 1970s. The entire beach, the healthy beach along the Duval system, had eroded over the course of between like 1890 and mid-1960s because of two things. One is the effects of the jetties and the dredging of the St. John's River, the entrance to Jacksonville Harbor. Natural depth of the Jacksonville Harbor entrance there at the jetties, before the jetties, was only about 12 feet, maybe 15 feet depth at all. Barely fine for a clipper ship. It's currently maintained to a depth now of 47 feet in that area. So we really changed that whole area, changed the entire sanctuary system. Got jetties that are 2 miles out there, completely changed the natural flow of sail. And at the same time, around 1910, 1920, 1930, we had all the developments along the Jacksonville beaches, which developed things right on the dune, and then ultimately put seawalls along that. The combination of the seawalls, which interrupted the natural system, along with the dredging, the harbor, and the jetties, all completely acted to change the natural system, resulting in a slowly erosional system, so that the beach system eroded back to this condition: the wall, the rocks, and the rats in the 1970s. As a coastal engineer who's been doing this for over 38 years, I can guarantee you, there is no question in my mind that over the course of another 10, 15, 20 years, with all of the storms we were having, that dune system would get wiped out, boom, water's up against the seawall, the beach erodes, and you get back to the top picture condition in the span of what might be 10, 15, 20 years at most. So it's very critical to continue the overall beach management program. I'll say one more thing about it real quick. I just gave a big talk in Volusia County last week. They don't have a beach management program. They're one of the few counties in Florida that does not participate in the state's beach management program. After Hurricane Nicole in particular, you all saw the pictures on the Weather Channel, Will by the sea and everything, and the broken seawalls and condos falling in. They're like, oh my gosh, the storm was so severe here. No, it wasn't. The storm there was no more severe than it was in Duval, St. John's, Brevard County, or Indian River County. The difference is they did not have a beach management program. They have not been taking care of their beaches in this era of rising sea level, and the fact that most of their shoreline is armored with seawalls. This is a picture I've shown to Beach Watch and others before, and I really like it. I'm going to show it backwards though. This is downtown Jacksonville Beach. There goes Joe's Crab Shack. you see. So this picture was taken in 2011, pretty typical condition of the beach after it was restored. Then we get about 20, 30 years after the onset of the Renourishment project. You can see the wide dune and all. That yellow line represents the seawall and the top of the steps that are around Jim's Crab Shack. This very same location looked like this in 1973. So that is the condition that we recovered from. It is the condition we will return to if the beach system is not managed. Where is the federal project in terms of its overall authorization? This is the thing that Jason and I worry about and spend much of our time on between the engineering details. The project, as Jason mentioned, was initially constructed in 1978 to 1980. It first had a 15-year life. It was extended to 50 years, such that its nominal life expires in 2028. We did a lot of scrambling to figure out how to get this extended. Fortunately, the congressional act called the Water Resource Development Act of 1922, language was put in there that allowed for the oldest projects, particularly in Florida and North Carolina, in which Duval qualified for that, got an automatic 12-year extension of the current project policy. So our program right now will run in its current form through 2040. Sometime before that, in the late 2030s, we're going to then have to, unless another congressional act is taken, we're going to have to undertake these feasibility studies, which will examine the degree to which the federal government will continue to participate in the program. Bars are changing, the metrics have changed. We have to go through this process. It very likely means that our federal pressure is going to decrease a lot, the amount of federal participation will decrease a lot. The good news is, once you're authorized, you're always authorized, so that when you get a really, really bad storm, you still qualify for it, the federal government will come in and restore it at full cost. But again, this is something that's on our horizon, luckily been pushed off now for about a 10-year period of time. Why is this so important in terms of managing what we have now? What concerns me the most as a soon-to-be retired coastal engineer is the status of sea level rise. It is a real thing, okay? When we look at the measured records of water level, of sea level around the state of Florida, East Coast, Gulf Coast, elsewhere, around the Southeast Coast, the actual measured water levels on an annual basis are showing a very, very strong acceleration. Here's a typical measured tide record at Virginia Key, okay? Down there just north end of the Florida Keys. Okay, this is projected, this is real data. And if you look at the trend from, like, say, 1995 to 2011 or 2010 or so, it's showing about 1.1 foot per century. That's pretty close to what it's been over the prior century, a rate of about 0.8 per century. But weirdly, after about 2010, over the last 12 years or so, that trend rate has accelerated to about 3.5 feet per century. If you look at a longer-term record, you're closer to home in Neptune Beach, Florida. Here we have records that go back all the way to around 1898. The trend of that data over the first century or so, from 1900 or so to 2011, was again the same long-term rate of about 0.7, 0.8 feet per century. But over the last 12 years or so, the trend is again about 3.2 feet per century. Now, that could be like a 10-year blip. Okay, there's a lot of things that affect sea level and all, but it really bothers me that this has been consistent. And every year, I say, guys, run the data. Okay, I'm waiting for it to go down. It doesn't. It just keeps going. It's rating about, 1 meter per century, which is consistent with a lot of the projections. So it's a real thing, and it's something we have to plan for. We got it on the ocean side. No problem. We can keep up with it by just increasing the berm height. We got a lot of sand, no big deal. We increase the elevation by half a foot every time we do a beach restoration project, whatever. Problem, and that's not what we're here to discussing tonight, is everywhere else. It's the other hundreds of miles of interior shoreline in Duval County, the backside of the intercoastal of our Barrett Island, and all of those waterways going into Jacksonville and all, where we've brought the sea down into Jacksonville. That is going to be the real trick, is especially since the sea level has already risen about 2 feet since we began the infrastructure in Jacksonville in the early 1800s. With that, I'll turn it back to Jackie.
Didn't I tell you that we were in good hands? The scariest thing Kevin said to me was this about to be retired coastal engineer. I don't know. These two have, when I was working with the congressman, these two were like every year, and same things. And it's just terrific what they've done. We're going to do some Q&A, and we have a few rules. One is you have to come up here because Sandy's putting this all on tape, and we need to hear what your question is, and then Jason and Kevin will answer it. 2, we want your question. We're not interested so much in your diatribe about what you think about beach restoration. Save that for something else. And 3, they are our guests and we are their neighbors, so we will be polite. Okay? Raise your hand, I'll point at you and come on up. Questions, anyone? Did I scare you off with that? Harrah.
My question has to do with the dune height. So you said that it was going to increase about half a foot. Now I know that we have at least one, if not more, private homes that have been allowed to build their own private little walkways over the dune. And I know that there were certain DEP regulations that they had to meet to go across it. But they look like they're skimming pretty close to the top of the existing dune. So if it goes up, so these people will have to adjust their walkways or else it'll be right in the sand.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent question. 2 things. One, the berm elevation we've increased by half a foot. The dune elevation we're not really going to be increasing relative to the last Renourishment project. We've set the dune elevations to be pretty consistent with what we observed historical trend to be around the 2015 through 2018 standpoint. So that elevation is really focusing on the berm. The dune height elevation relative to what we have, NAVD is our data. It varies between 14.5 feet and 16.5 feet. The berm, on the other hand, is 8.7 feet. So there's a net relief of between 6 and 8 feet of the dune crest above the berm elevation. To your question about the dune walkovers, in those areas where you have a dune walkover which has already been permitted and constructed, that does not change. To the extent that we add more sand to the system, or even if we did increase the dune height, and that shoal blue sand over the top of that walkover, or whatever, or blew it up underneath it, that's fine. That dune, that walkover was permanent, no change has to be made. Personally, some of the requirements in the control line permitting that require like a 1 and 2 foot clearance of the dune crossovers above the dune are ridiculous. They don't make any physical engineering sense to me. It just means the walkover has to be bigger than it needs to be. That's just my opinion.
Another question. Yes.
Me?
Come on up, yes.
Good evening. I've lived close to the Atlantic Ocean my entire life. I came from Virginia Beach. I've lived down here for 16 years, but whatever. I'm familiar with all this stuff with the beach coming and going. A lot of places build stone jetties out into the ocean, maybe 100 or 200 yards, big, huge chunks of granite, whatever. That apparently reduces the erosion of the beach. Is there any thought or plan to build jetties here where the erosion is the worst?
I'll let the doctor take that.
Good observation. So, groins, we call them jetties, groins. We're the engineering tool for beach erosion control from the early 1900s through the 1960s and 70s, before beach nourishment was introduced. Throughout most of Florida, particularly southeast Florida, and over the Gulf Coast of Congo Key and whatnot, Groins proliferated everywhere, such there were structures, gosh, on the order of every 300 to 400 feet. When you look at those pictures, like Miami Beach in the 1970s, again, groin literally every 300 or 400 feet along the shore, there was still no sand. Groins do not produce sand. When you're in a sand-starved environment, such as one that has been totally interrupted by navigation projects and whatnot, or the construction of seawalls, such as Virginia Beach before the big project, as it was called. Groins can't capture sand that doesn't exist. They don't manufacture sand. But more importantly, on a long open coastline, like here in Duval County, basically most of the east coast of Florida, it's one long continuous stream where sand is moving continually north to south and also south to north in the summertime. So when Ralph builds one groin, sand is going to pile up on one side. Okay, looks great. But for every grain of sand that accumulates on one side of that groin, an equivalent amount of sand must erode from the other side. That's just conservation of mass. So Sam, down here, says, okay, well, Ralph's groin pretty good. I'm going to build one of these things too. He can recover some sand. But Rachel, to his right, okay, she starts to suffer that erosion. Thus, you see this proliferation of groins and structures which totally interrupt the entire beach system. For that reason, the construction of structures, groins and whatnot, was basically outlawed in the state of Florida beginning in the early 1980s, late 1970s, and they are allowed now only in very, very isolated circumstances, which are like right next to inlets and other places where you have really super high erosion rates that you can't control with anything other than very highly specialized structures. So again, my recommendation always is no. Don't put those in. The beach restoration project in the end is going to be actually cheaper because, again, you're not trying to constantly mitigate erosion that you cause from structures in one place. Excuse me. You cause an accretion in one place, but an equal amount of erosion in the neighboring community next door.
Anyone else? Question? Yes. Thank you all for coming forward, so Sandy can catch you up.
My question is about the southernmost section of the Renourishment down near the county line. Right in front of my house, there are some new flags out there that say North Extent, and then there's a matching flag at the poles that say South Extent, and there's a new Sea Turtle Patrol sign in front of my house. So is that where they're putting the sea turtle nests, is that section? Is that what that means? Or is something else going on there?
Given the point that, and she was asking if you didn't all hear, there's gaps at the south end of the project where no sand is being placed, and there's an equal gap in Hannah Park where no sand is being placed. I will not confirm or deny that those are areas for turtles to be placed, because some people, believe it or not, are crazy, and they'll be sitting there with lounge chairs waiting for nests to hatch. So those are areas where, those are environmental areas.
Okay, so there will be no nourishment in that section?
That is correct, Kevin.
You might mention, though, that we're placing an equal amount of sand immediately adjacent to both areas.
Right, and it will fill in, right? Yeah, but we had to designate two areas because according to FWC, you don't want to designate areas that have been filled specifically for nesting. Turtles enjoy the sand year or 2 year old. I'm not a biologist, but they want us to designate two areas, and so those may or may not be the areas.
Gotcha.
I will not confirm nor deny. Yes.
I'm David Lewis in South Jacksonville Beach. I'm actually at ground zero where the pump is today. So I wish you would turn those beepers off. Not for me. My wife was furious this morning at me because but anyway, she's still not happy with her drugs. First question. We're doing the same amount, the same work over and over again, and we're hoping for a better result each time. But every 5 to 10 years, we have to renourish the beach. Let me ask you, we saw pictures of the seawalls that have been there for half a decade, half of a century, and now almost a full century. And the riprap or the granite boulders that protect the seawall, it works. It's not sand, it stops the waves. Why are we not doing something better than just pumping sand on the beach? Why are we not lining the beach where this new dune will go with granite boulders and covering that with sand so that when the next storm does come, and there will be a storm that will come, it may erode the sand, but the boulders would remain and it would provide protection of the waves to some degree. It's going to come through. But it would also give a new stable base to rebuild the new dunes so that we could perpetually create our own new dunes without sand fences. It's already there in front of us. Why would we do something greater like that since we need now to go? Every time we renourish, sand goes away. Why are we doing something different? Second question, please. I saw the sand all pump the last couple of days. You finally got the dredge working. You got all the sand on the beach. You know what's coming. It's got a mountain of sand, 2 blocks long, borders. They didn't spread it. They went out there and they picked up all the sand in small buckets and took it back and put it back in the ocean. They did it all night last night, all day today. The entire mountain of new sand was not a drop used. All of it was put back in the ocean. How did we use that sand? It looked good. Why did we build a mountain and then 2 days of work put the mountain back in the ocean?
I'll turn the doctor loose on you first. The second one's going in the bottom of the hill, correct?
Yeah, so I'll actually go with the second one first. Is, we see the beach as being that part which is from the dune out to the waterline. The beach actually extends 3 to 4 times that further into the ocean. That is, the active beach, the beach which really works, extends out along this coastline to about 20 foot of water depth, which is about 2,000 feet offshore. And so you have to fill the entire template. That sand which is being placed is actually within the construction template of the beach. This particular beach nourishment project around that area closes out at around 6 or 7 feet of water. So if you didn't fill that area out there, and you piled all the sand right on the berm, it would instantly slide back out into the sea, because that's where it needs to go. So what they're doing is to build the overall template. We don't have a lot of sand out there yet, so they're sorting that out to do all of it. The project is pretty new, only a few days old in construction. To your second question about the seawalls and whatnot, when we do the renourishment projects, in this case in Duval County, it averages about 5.5 years, more or less. It's like it varies between 3 and 8 years, 12 years, depending where you're at. We don't expect a different response every time. We know exactly what's going to happen. The amount of sand which is placed there is that which is necessary to offset the annual ongoing erosion of that area, and to offset also erosion which occurs on the adjacent flanks to either side. So we don't expect it to ever get better. This is the program. You repaint your house every 5 or 6 years. I mean, that's kind of what you have to do for 10 years or whatever. What I can say most definitely is when you build a seawall, when you build a structure which is in frequent interaction with the waves and with the sea, like say in front of the dune, you will definitely preserve the dune and you will definitely erode the beach. If your interest is only in shore protection, that is, in protecting your house and the upland and everything, with no interest in a recreational beach or a nesting beach in front of it, then the seawall is your answer. But in order to create, to maintain a natural beach system, you cannot have a hard structure that has any kind of frequent interaction with the waves. You can't have a structure which is too far out into the sea. The seawall we have now is great. Really severe, like crazy event, okay, it might get exposed, but you have to blow through that entire berm and beach and dune and everything else. If you put a wall, another wall that was advanced out in front of it, it would have been activated in instantly, and that would have caused the beach in front of it to drop, the waves to reflect off of it, taking more sand offshore, and when the beach is wet in front of a seawall, it cannot recover. The beach has to be dry in front of it for the natural processes to recover in front of it.
Yes, ma'am.
I live in South Jacksonville Beach. We have a marvelous new walkover. The problem is there are, I didn't count, maybe 6 steps going up off the street, but then the steps going down towards the ocean, many more steps. People that are now bringing their families to the beach are bringing wagons, and they can't get them up or down that many steps. So what they're doing, which defeats the entire purpose, is they're walking over the sand dune. There's a space about this wide right now between the walkover and where the sand dune starts, and that path is getting a little wider and well worn. Defeats the whole purpose of the walkover. How do we find out? Can we get a ramp? Or I don't know why some locations have ramps and some of them have steps.
That's a good observation. The Beach Renourishment Project, which Jason and I were talking about, does not include any of the walkovers. Now, those are all either privately developed, or in your case, probably by the city of Jacksonville Beach. So Jacksonville Beach, I know, just put city of Jacksonville Beach just put in a lot of new walkover structure. So it's really a question for city of Jacks Beach in terms of how to best manage that. They have a lot of their program in terms of which gets ramps, like ADA ramps versus steps and all, is something that's kind of in their calculus, and so I can't really address it. I definitely recognize what you're saying, and it's a problem, because you've got to find a way to keep people from short-circuiting that whole system.
But there is a ordinance, right, for not walking on the dunes?
Correct. You're not allowed to walk on the dunes and disturb.
It's impossible to carry the wagons that are loaded with their chairs and all of their beach stuff.
There's no law prohibiting walking over the dunes.
Yes, there are Florida rules and statutes that do not allow you to disturb dune vegetation.
That's the only law, is disturb the vegetation. There is no law prohibiting walking over the dunes, sir.
That may be the case. I'm not here to argue the rules and statutes, but I can say this. Walking over the dunes on a frequent basis, creating paths and stuff like that, especially on a frequent basis for large-scale public action, it does adversely impact the dunes. But at the same time, I understand. You got wagons, you got kids, you got to get people over the beach.
And we have Sandy from the Jacksonville Beach City Council.
Yeah, so we have in Jacks Beach, we have 40 some odd walkovers, which is a lot. And our Public Works Department has, I'm sorry, did you have a question? Yeah.
No.
Okay. Our Public Works Department has gone through and done an analysis of all of those walkovers, and in the areas, in some cases, the dune is so healthy that the DEP has required them to build the walkovers a certain distance above the dune, and so there's no way to do a ramp. There's not enough space to do a ramp. So in some places where they could do ramps, they would, and in the places where they couldn't, they just had to do steps. And if you want, I can get you connected with our Public Works Department if you want to talk further about it, but they did go through, and because the City Council did ask them, we want you to put ramps wherever you can put ramps for the same reason that you're saying, because we do see people bypassing the walkovers if they have steps.
Okay, thank you.
And I have for one short question. Otherwise, thank you all for, yes? Come on. Don't run. Make me nervous.
Just one quick question is the fact that after the river was dredged, we've seen right here at the mouth of the coastal higher water levels. So much that our Hopkins Creek drainage is very, very high. So What effect, basically all I'm getting at is I don't worry about the drainage, that's a state problem. What effect does this increase in depth and volume of water coming in and out have to do with the beach erosion?
So we have deepened the river from the 12 to 15 feet that Dr. Bodge mentioned, and it's been deepened 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 47. Why is that happening? The container ships where we buy the iPads and the Louis Vuitton purses and the Gucci shoes and all that comes from overseas is getting more and more as the population grows, and so the ships get bigger. They need more water to draft to get in and out of harbor. So when we did the last deepening, we did a really thorough analysis to look at what the effects of sea level rise and any kind of storm surge as it comes in and out in tide cycles in and out of the river at a 40 versus 47-foot channel. And the highest level of water increase we saw was at the Danes Point Bridge, and it was less than 0.2 inches. And so we had that report out. It was very minimal increase from the deepening itself, which the sea level rise impacts were much more of an issue than the deepening of 40 to 47 feet. And keep in mind, we don't deepen a river, we deepen the federal channel. The channel was very small compared to the overall width of the river. But that study's online, I can give you a link to look at it.
I think we all want to thank Kevin and Jason for a wonderful presentation. Expressing your interest in our community. If you want to run for office, don't forget to look that up. If you want to join, don't forget over there. And I did want to have one shout out to Kevin Brown back there, who's part of or head of our Turtle Patrol. Well, he's not head anymore, but he's still a Turtle Patrol person. I know he is still. Was the football coach at Fletcher, and we would have all these kids that would be planting seals all up and down, and everyone said, "Oh my God, you get a whole bunch of these big boys out there." I said, "The football coach is the ecological teacher." So yes, the whole team was out there. So thank you for all you've done, Kevin, over the years. Thank you all again for coming, and don't forget, next month we've got Rory Diamond. Thank you.